Let's talk about tariffs. So Trump said that he wants to pretty much do a blanket 20% tariff on every single import that enters the country. On top of that, he wants to charge more for Chinese imported goods and possibly Mexico imported goods as well, depending on how it is with immigration. For simplicity, I'm excluding everything that already has a tariff, but this is a blanket 20% tariff across every single country. And then we have the 60% for China and the 25% for Mexico. So a lot of people don't understand that the consumer is the one that's going to pay this amount. So all your goods that you just voted in, it's not going to happen. It's going to get more expensive. Let me show you how. So for example, there's a popular tumbler brand in the US. And even though it's in the US, headquarters in the US, it gets its goods from either China or from Brazil. So just for simplicity's sake, let's say that right now it costs $5 to manufacture this item and that they're charging $30 for it. That's a 83% profit margin, and they're getting a total profit of $25 per tumbler. Now let's say, just for simplicity, they get equal parts from China and Brazil split evenly. So let's go ahead and add China and Brazil. It automatically brings in the proposed tariff for that country. And then it's $2.50 per, since we're splitting it equally just for simplicity. Obviously, this is probably not the case. I don't work for that company. I don't know exactly how it's split. So if we were going to try to figure out the new cost, we're going to go ahead and use the sum product formula. Then we'll select the current costs, and we'll select the proposed tariffs. So that says that the proposed tariffs are going to be $2 more. We simply need to add in the sum of the current cost, and that gives us the new goods. So now, instead of it costing $5, it costs $7. Now, if they were to leave the same price, then they would have a profit margin of 77% and a total profit of 23%. No company is going to do this. They're going to either focus on maintaining profit margins or maintaining profit. In fact, they're going to increase their prices ahead of the tariffs actually occurring to anticipate, so that way it doesn't automatically spike up all at once later on. And this is probably going to happen regardless at this point because everybody knows that tariffs are on the table, so we're kind of screwed at this point for that, but let's talk about it anyways. So with the new cost, they either have a 77% profit margin or they're making $23. So some companies, they're going to focus on simply maintaining the same exact profit despite the profit margin. So they'll simply charge $32, which is $2 more, and then they have the same profit. Other companies are going to try to maintain the profit margins that they report to their board every single quarter and things like that. So if we were to maintain a 83% profit margin, you'll need a $42 price. Even though the cost of the manufacturing goods only increased by $2, the price increased by $12. Obviously, it's probably going to fall somewhere in the middle, but that's just the reality of the situation. Now let's say that Trump's plan did work, and we, instead of having $2.50 for China, we now have the United States. And let's say it's a little bit more expensive here. Let's say optimistically it's $3 now. So now, instead of it costing $5 to create, now it's costing $6 to create. Let's go ahead and bring back that $30 price. So now instead of an 83% profit margin, we're at an 80% profit margin, but we're still $1 short. So we're either going to have to pay an extra dollar, or we're going to have to pay, say, $36 to bring up that profit margin to where it needs to be. That's not including everything else. So for example, all the research and development that they've had to put into bringing in factories from other countries into our country. They typically pass those different investment burdens on to the consumer as well. So there's really not a path forward unless they do massive government subsidies for businesses to offset costs. But once again, since when have companies ever passed that savings on to the consumer? It strictly goes into their pocket, to their shareholders, and they continue with the status quo. And like I said, even if he does pull back on the blanket tariffs, a lot of companies are already baking those in. They're planning for those in the future. So it's probable that costs are going to increase, whether those tariffs are there or not.